All right, House of Payne fans. Now, this is kind of a follow-up video on the finale, Woman of the Night. And the question that everybody's asking is, did they kill off CJ? Well, we're going to talk about it. So make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Let's try to get to 150 likes on this video. Also, hit subscribe because I'm trying to reach 200,000 subscribers. Follow me on social media, links are in the description below, and please click the bell notification icon and select all. That way you don't miss out whenever I post new content to the channel. So basically a quick rundown at the end, towards the end of the episode, Malik rushed over to Curtis and Ella's house to tell his dad that there was an alert. Apparently there's something big going downtown. It's like a federal building, and it has to involve the mayor and everything. So basically, CJ rushes out. This is after the whole scenario of him putting Aunt Ella in her place after taking his kids without permission. And at the tail end of the episode, Curtis is watching TV and calls Ella to the living room because there's something serious going on. The fire department had marked off almost 10 blocks of, distance between the federal building that's basically apparently either has... They said there were a couple options. It was either something, underhanded, like a possible explosive, or it was just a fire that, got set randomly and went out of control. But in any case, it's a big deal. And Janine calls Malik, who, she was in tears so bad that she could barely make out what happened. But apparently, CJ was hurt real bad at work, and it's not known whether or not he's going to make it. I mean, though, honestly, that's kind of like the best interpretation on the scene because things were so bad. Malik, Lisa, and the twins went over to Curtis and Ella's house. And now the question is, did CJ get killed off? Now, I'm going to put it this way. If you've watched my review for the finale, you know I wasn't a huge fan of the episode just because of how... I felt like it was the worst of Ella brought to the surface because, there was some research done on my end as well as... Actually, let me double check. Let me see if there's been an update on the Wikipedia page for the particular episode I'm referring to. Just please bear with me 1 second. Okay. So it was Mark E. Swinton. He actually directed episode 24. You heard me? And Tyler Perry wrote it. But when it came to episode 25, Woman of the Night, Mark E. Swinton both he both directed and wrote the episode, which could explain why that particular episode, the finale, felt so out of place, as if the person writing this episode didn't really know how to properly depict the characters. I mean, honestly, the characters seemed in character except for Ella because there was a lot of forced confrontation in order to potentially create drama because CJ was right in what he said to Aunt Ella in a very respectful fashion, but it just seemed completely out of place for Ella to be this hypocritical, intrusive, judgmental person. So then to have her and CJ have a bit of a falling out, and then CJ potentially being killed off, it's almost like there's been somewhat of a slight reset button. So when we get to season 10, which I do believe is occurring, the question is, what's going to happen next? Because if nothing else, if something really serious happens to CJ, it's probably going to be something that's going to make Malik man up even quicker than he already has to, being that he has a baby on the way. Potentially. Look, we're not going to get into whether or not Lisa is pregnant thing. Not now. In a way, though, I mean, this video, I'm going to try to keep it at... I'm going to try to not go off tangent and ramble, but let me just say, I do have a notepad in front of me, and I did jot down some ideas, but there are just so many various ways that this storyline could go if CJ has died. So let me just say, instead of doing look, I could easily do maybe 5 to 6 separate videos, but I'm just going to lump it into one for time consistency, for the lack of just making video after video after video. Let's just stick to it. So scenario number 1, if CJ is dead, I mean, that would kind of suck to just kill him off like that. I mean, trust and believe, he did go out with and I don't want to say a bang, but the scene with Aunt Ella was well acted. He pretty much put her in her place, and I didn't see a problem with what he said at all. But the thing about it is, it's like, I just don't like how it went down in regards to none of this stuff being seen on screen. Now, House of Payne isn't as bad as assisted living when it comes to telling us rather than showing us what happened, but it would have been a great opportunity to see like the firehouse crew, because on IMDb and a couple other sources it was said that the firehouse crew was coming back. And I mean, we didn't know what episode it was going to happen in, but I mean, hell, even Floyd showed up for a couple of episodes, and I never expected to see him back on this show when it was brought over to Viacom. But then on top of that, you also had the fact that, damn, if this really was CJ's swan song, what a way to go out when you don't even have Janine or Jasmine in this episode. So, I mean, it just stinks. I mean, there were just so many wasted potential moments. And look, I know I'm harping on something that might not even happen. What I mean by that is, if CJ isn't dead, then it's like, well, Jeremy, don't freak out. I mean, if CJ isn't dead, then it doesn't matter because Janine and Jasmine will show up at some point. True, but it's just like one of those things where, remember my review of assisted living, I think from episode 24, when Jeremy was in jail, and I think that Cora was on the phone saying that she would call Medea to see if she could lend the money to get Jeremy out, and then she walked off screen. But then when she came back, she said Medea just yelled at her over the phone, so she couldn't really hear that well. So it was a running gag where Cora was yelling because she couldn't hear what anybody was saying. And I'm like, well, I mean, I get Tyler Perry not really getting into the Medea outfit and everything because he doesn't want to, but how hard would it have been for, let's say, the Cora be in another room, or let's say she's walking into the the kitchen area on the phone saying, hey, Medea, well, we need this money to get Jeremy. And then it's like, you could add a voiceover of Tyler Perry in Medea voice just going off and yelling at Cora. How hard would that have been? So the same to be said of Janine doing a voiceover. So let's say we saw, Malik, Lisa with the twins, and then the phone rings, and then, we hear Janine, because that would have been a great scene where even though Janine isn't on screen, we could just hear the emotion in her voice to really get us pumped up and emotional. Oh, damn, what happened to CJ? That would have been great. Similar to another scene in the episode that I wish we would have seen, which was Calvin and Miranda at the dinner. And then he pretty much explained how he plans to marry Laura, but we don't see that. So if CJ dies, I mean, what would that mean for the fire, crew? Like, I don't think this would mean Curtis would come out of retirement, but I mean, if there was nobody else to step up, he would possibly do it. Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that because Curtis has just been, lounging around the house, barking orders around, and pretty much being comic relief. So to add a little bit of levity to the show, let's say CJ, I'm sorry, let's say, like CJ, even if he isn't dead, maybe he's out of commission for a while due to medical leave. What if Curtis puts back on the fire chief? Well, probably a different one because he probably outgrew it in retirement. Look, I put on weight during quarantine too. I ain't, it's whatever. We could see Curtis get back into the role at least until either CJ is able to fulfill it once again, or if unfortunately CJ is killed off, maybe there's another character who can step up and take over the role. Once again, a perfect example of why it would have been great to have the Firehouse crew back for at least 2 or 3 appearances just to get us reintroduced to them, because maybe some of the positions have changed. We don't know. Maybe there are new fire crew members. Not to mention, we don't even know what kind of job CJ arranged for Malik to start in order to save money to get an apartment so he and Lisa can move out. We just don't know. I mean, I was thinking, wow, what if it would have been a true, copy and paste of the Calvin storyline where, Calvin was in college, he was taking a while to graduate, but he was working at the Firehouse crew or volunteering or whatever he was doing. Would have been the same thing with Malik, but we just don't know because we were never told that information. So you can imagine, like, what if Malik decides to take up the, obviously not become chief because he does have experience, but just take up a job at the Firehouse crew at the Firehouse to kind of honor his father. It's just one of those things where there's a lot of potential, kind of like the whole Caleb storyline about him offering Janine of smoke and, pressuring Jasmine, his mother dying a couple years ago, him being the pastor's son. There was a lot of potential in that storyline, but unfortunately, it was wasted. So I think that if this truly is a death of one of the main characters, but to happen off screen, that's just awful. I mean, like, look, I know I'm judging a bit too harshly because, well, Jeremy, we don't know what the beginning of season 10 is going to be like. Some people are already speculating maybe at the beginning of season 10 we'll see the Firehouse crew. Maybe there'll be a scene in the hospital or something along those lines, because there were quite a lot of scenes like that during the original run. Calvin being shot, and look, there were just a lot of, between like Janine and Miranda both being pregnant, giving birth and stuff like that. I mean, a lot of people harken back to the original House of Payne when there was like, what was the episode title? When There's Smoke, when it was like almost 3 parts and it was like a flashback. Curtis was talking CJ through the accident when he was trapped under some rubble and debris. So I just hope that we don't have an off-screen death where he kind of spit on the legacy of CJ. Especially like if CJ is killed off or isn't around, what are you going to do? I mean, a lot of people are speculating, and this is another scenario. If CJ is killed off, what's going to happen? Will Malik, Lisa, and the twins move in with Curtis and Ella? Maybe not the twins. It depends. I don't know. Depends, because they're kids, diapers. What if they stay with Janine? I don't know. What if, Malik and Lisa move in with Curtis and Ella, kind of like a similar situation. Let's say if Miranda and Calvin lived with Curtis and Ella, something like that. I don't like that idea, because it goes back to like episode 3, where I was really hoping that Janine and CJ would be the new Curtis and Ella, where they would take Malik under their wing like Curtis and Ella did with Calvin. But unfortunately, that's not what happened. I mean, Janine was barely in any episodes. Jasmine was here and there, and the twins kind of popped up randomly, and then CJ I don't think CJ had much of any wasted scenes. I think anytime CJ showed up, it was pretty good. But at the end of the day, it's like, I just don't like it. It just feels like if this truly is the death of CJ, it wasn't handled that well. But like I said before, I don't know what the beginning of season 10 will bring. Perhaps they will show the accident. Perhaps they will show us CJ in the hospital, because it would just feel awful. Like if it turns out that he just died and then we never see him again, and we don't really have time to have the characters mourn, like to actually see how it impacts them. Kind of like on Greenleaf, when Bishop died, we kind of skipped directly to the funeral and like, what was it, like the first few minutes of the episode where, I think before like the opening theme or something like that. I need to watch the episode again. It's on Netflix. What am I doing? Where Bishop passed. He had like that stroke or whatever at the end of the penultimate episode. Then at the beginning of the finale, we find out he dies. Then the family is at the bed. Next thing you know, it's the grave site. And then the episode picks up from there. I just hope we don't have a scenario like that with CJ. Because again, the patriarch of the family trying to get his son right, because I feel like, to be honest, I don't want CJ to be killed off, but there are some potential story beats that could actually work if he did, because I think one of the big ones is, once again, it would force Malik to truly man up because of all the lessons his dad tried to instill in him. It would force him to really, escalate his journey into manhood, not just the whole pregnancy thing, but to honor CJ, his father, and also try to be the best father he could be to his unborn child. And then on top of that, Ella will just feel some kind of way, because the last time they spoke, it wasn't on good terms. So maybe she would possibly try. I could see like Curtis trying to, believe it or not, I could see Curtis possibly being the voice of reason, being more than willing to try to help out, like Malik, CJ, Malik, Lisa, and possibly the twins, when Ella is like, she knows it's the right thing to do, but she feels like it's possibly like wrong, because the last time her and CJ spoke, it was like CJ saying, hey, don't interfere with how my household is run and stuff like that. So we could possibly see some potential growth of Curtis as well. So kind of like way back when I did a prediction video the night of the episode where Quincy Jr. was killed, I said, whenever you think about who's going to die in one of these shows, you have to think of what character's death would move the story along the most because of how people would deal with the loss of a certain character. As sad as it is, I think CJ's death would bring about a lot of dramatic growth within the characters. I think it could actually bring the show back to its roots. Even though it's lost one of the many roots that got the show started, CJ, I think, his passing could bring about a new energy to the program. Like, yeah, I know it will just be an air of depression. And I feel like, we would definitely see like Jasmine and Janine and the Firehouse crew, but to lose CJ would be to see a growth of development in Malik, maybe even Jasmine. It just depends on how often these characters would show up. So I definitely would like to see what the story would be like. Like if you're a comic book fan like me and you read like the death of Superman, and then after that it was the reign of the Superman, where it's like Superman was gone due to fighting Doomsday, and then there were like 4 other variations of Superman, like what was it, Steel and Superboy and the Eradicator and Cyborg Superman, and then the original eventually showed up again. But it's like one of those things where it wasn't the death of Superman that truly mattered. It was the story really came into, well, yeah, the death of Superman was just an all-out brawl. The entire comic was like Superman versus Doomsday, but it was the follow-up comics that truly mattered in terms of how the people of Metropolis and how the other citizens dealt with losing Superman. That was the story. Now, I don't want to see CJ be killed off, but I do think that his death would bring about a lot of solid progression of the other characters, because when you really think about it, season 9 felt a little bit episodic, if not episodic. What I mean by episodic is where each episode could almost damn near be stand alone. But when it came to season 9, it's almost like there were like different segments of the season focused on various characters. Like, oh, these 2 episodes are Jasmine focused. These 3 episodes are Malik and Lisa. These 4 episodes are Curtis and Ella. And, these 5 are, Calvin and Miranda. But I think that if CJ died, it could truly bring the story back to it being a solid story where we're seeing multiple things happen per episode. So all I got to say is this. If CJ is truly dead, unfortunately, I would hope that it would bring about, through his death, a revival of what the House of Payne series used to be. It's not going to be the same without him, but that's a good thing, because even though things won't be the same without CJ, that means that they can change for the better. Trust and believe, I have about maybe 5 other scenarios that could work out. I mean, look, I didn't even get into the possibilities of, if Janine lost her husband, would she relapse? Would she become an addict again? Which again could have been a good storyline for the whole thing about Jasmine and Caleb. After seeing her mom possibly contact Caleb, possibly think of the idea of getting back on drugs because she lost CJ, that could open up Jasmine's eyes as to why her parents are so adamant about, Caleb to begin with being a drug dealer, even though her mom being a addict while she was young should do that. But I mean, as people grow older, they kind of change and forget things. Then on top of that, you also look at how Curtis lost like a second son, not just a nephew, but almost like a second son in CJ. Then, of course, like I've said multiple times, the growth of Malik. What will the Firehouse crew do from there? I mean, there are just so many variations of what they can do with the death of this one character. So let me know what, I think I've talked enough. I feel like I've talked enough. Please let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you think CJ was killed off? Do you think that he's obviously in bad shape? Because Malik did say what he could make out from what Janine said. He got hurt pretty bad. What do you think will come of him possibly being, hospitalized for a while? And what do you hope to see in season 10? So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you would like to donate to the channel financially, feel free to do so on PayPal, Cash App, or join Patreon for as little as $1 a month.